What role did secret rituals and ancient magic play in Nazi Germany? Could the fate of millions and the horrors of World War II be connected to forbidden knowledge? What hidden beliefs and occult ideas might have controlled the Nazi elite? Today, we explore real archives, forgotten documents, and shocking facts historians rarely talk about. You'll discover the strange belief that Hitler thought could reshape the future and even the world. To understand the Nazis' obsession with mythology, we must go back to Germany at the end of the 19th century. At that time, people were fascinated by legends of dragons, lost kingdoms, and ancient heroes. Writers like Richard Wagner filled their operas with gods, magical swords, and the downfall of mythical races. School books included old folk stories. Archaeologists tried to trace the origins of early tribes. Why did myths matter so much? After Germany was unified in 1871, its people were searching for their identity. The concept of a nation needed proof of ancient origins. Thinkers dreamed of a pure ancient people, the Aryans, who they believed once ruled most of the world. This wasn't just fantasy. By 1900, hundreds of books about Atlantis, ancient Nordic ancestors, and mythical continents had been published in Germany. Popular ideas mixed archaeology and fantasy. And that was when the real danger arose. At the turn of the century, Europe was filled with new spiritual movements. Occult clubs, rune circles, and secret societies met in candlelit rooms and claimed to be able to uncover hidden truths about humanity. These groups blended Eastern religions, old Germanic myths, and magical rituals. These two factors primarily influenced the future formation of Nazi ideology. Theosophy. Helena Blavatsky wrote about root races, magical evolution, and the notion that certain civilizations were spiritually superior. Millions of people read her books. By 1910, the Theosophical Society had branches in 40 countries. The Ariosophists, writers such as Guido von List and Lanz von Liebenfels, created stories about ancient Aryan priest kings, magical runes, and inferior races. They used fake archaeology and occult symbols to justify racism. Some Nazi occultists claimed that the Aryans were descended from the Atlanteans, an advanced race that possessed mystical knowledge. After the fall of Atlantis, its survivors migrated to northern Europe, laying the foundation for Germanic civilization. Then came the Thule Society, a Munich group of wealthy men obsessed with finding the lost homeland of the Aryans. To justify their racial theories, the group also promoted the fantasy of Atlantean descendants and claimed that Jews had destroyed the harmonious order of Aryan civilization. The Thule Society drew inspiration from occult theories and sponsored the German Workers' Party, which later became the Nazi Party. This wasn't just a small hobby. In fact, German scientists organized expeditions to Iceland, the Himalayas, and Tibet to find evidence of these myths. Between 1900 and 1940, Germany financed around 20 such expeditions. Hitler himself didn't practice magic, seances, or occult rituals. However, he understood something even more powerful, the psychology of myth. He believed in destiny and providence. He was convinced that he had a special mission in history. He often said in his speeches and in his book Mein Kampf that he felt protected by higher forces. He paid attention to signs, coincidences, and moments that he saw as destiny. This wasn't formal occultism. It was his own personal, almost mystical belief in his role as a chosen leader. Hitler knew how to use symbols like magic. He transformed the swastika into a sacred emblem. He surrounded himself with symbols of wolves and believed that they gave him power. Hitler was also obsessed with the Spear of Destiny. According to legend, whoever possesses the Spear of Destiny, which pierced Jesus on the cross, will rule the world. After annexing Austria in 1938, Hitler seized the spear from the Hofburg Palace in Vienna and moved it to Nuremberg. He believed that it gave him supernatural power. He also believed in the magnetism of leaders and their ability to influence crowds through rituals, rhythm, and light. To him, propaganda was a form of modern witchcraft. But his inner circle went much further. Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, saw himself as a reincarnated priest king from the Middle Ages. He created new Aryan rituals, redesigned weddings and baptisms, and held secret midnight ceremonies at the Wewelsburg Castle. He tried to transform the castle into a mystical center of the Nazi world. Himmler collected runes, relics, bones, and ancient symbols. Rudolf Hess relied on astrologers and occult healers. Karl Maria Willigut, an SS mystic, claimed to remember past lives dating back 200,000 years. Hitler often mocked these men in private, yet he allowed them to continue. Why? Because he understood that myths, symbols, and rituals gave the Nazi movement a deadly quality, a sense of destiny. When millions believe their leaders have a sacred mission, nothing feels impossible or too terrible. The Lebensborn program, Engineering the New Human, was founded in 1935 by Heinrich Himmler. The program aimed to breed a race of supermen with the desired biological and Aryan characteristics. Women who passed the strict racial selection were sent to special Lebensborn homes to bear children from carefully selected men, usually SS officers. Around 8,000 children were born in these homes in Germany. The Nazis abducted thousands of children with Aryan features, such as blonde hair and blue eyes, in occupied countries, especially Poland, Czechoslovakia, and the Soviet Union. Over 20,000 children were forcibly separated from their families and sent to Germany for Germanization. The Lebensborn program was most active in Germany, Norway, France, and other occupied territories. Annie Fried Lyngstad, from the band ABBA, was born as part of a Nazi-promoted program in Norway. Her father was a German soldier stationed there. Later, she and her mother moved to Sweden to escape the persecution of women who had relationships with German occupiers. The Ahnenerbe Ancestral Heritage, an organization founded also by Himmler, combined pseudoscience, occult research, archaeology, and propaganda. By 1943, the Ahnenerbe had over 50 departments. They studied runes, ancient music, animal husbandry, and racial biology. They also explored ancient ruins, stone circles, medieval manuscripts, Viking burial sites, and monasteries in the Himalayas. They collected over 6 million stolen artifacts, including manuscripts, sculptures, and cultural treasures. But something much darker was lurking behind the academic mask. The Ahnenerbe conducted medical experiments on people in concentration camps. Prisoners were immersed in ice water, infected with diseases, and subjected to tests in low-pressure chambers. These experiments resulted in thousands of deaths. The real purpose was to provide scientific proof of the superiority of the Nazi race. The price was irrelevant to them. The archives contain wild claims that Aryan blood carries spiritual energy. However, the truth is shocking. These ideas were used to justify mass murder. After Nazi Germany's defeat in 1945, their occult ideas didn't disappear. Amid the chaos of post-war Europe, thousands of Germans sought out astrologers, healers, and fortune-tellers. The black market was flooded with magical books and rune manuals. New extremist groups around the world used Nazi symbols and rituals. In France, Savitri Devi portrayed Hitler as a divine figure. In Chile, Miguel Serrano wrote about Nazi gods living in Antarctica. In the US and Europe, neo-Nazi groups adopted runes and SS rituals. In 1945, through Operation Paperclip, the United States secretly recruited and transported more than 1,600 German scientists and engineers, including former Nazis, to America. Most of them were hired to develop military technology, intelligence, and space exploration. The goal was to gain a technological advantage during the emerging Cold War and space race. Among them was Wernher von Braun, who developed the Saturn V rocket for NASA's moon landing. Even today, more than 50 occult neo-Nazi sects exist worldwide, combining magic, conspiracy theories, and extremist politics. These stories are retold in movies, books, and games because they are both terrifying and fascinating. However, these myths still have power, which is what makes them dangerous. So, did occult rituals truly influence Hitler's decisions, or is that just a baseless conspiracy theory? The truth is this: the Nazis were not driven by magic, but by myths. When people believe they are chosen by destiny, when a nation sees itself as superior, when leaders are surrounded by symbols, rituals, and stories of ancient glory, then myths become laws, propaganda becomes truth, and madness becomes reality. However, not all secret rituals are dangerous. What is truly dangerous is how easily fabricated stories could lead to mass deaths. The most frightening thing is that a group of people, driven by Nazi ideology, which combined myths, madness, and murder, was able to destroy millions of lives.